Alyssa didn't even see the glass coming. 1 second she was standing in her mother's kitchen, trying to understand why Diane was shaking with anger. And the next, a sharp crash exploded beside her face. The glass hit the wall so close that tiny shards rained over her shoulder. She froze. For a moment, the whole world went quiet. No sound. No movement. Just the sting of panic crawling slowly up her throat. Her own mother had thrown a glass at her. "Alyssa, don't you walk away from me," Diane screamed, her voice cracking. "You think you can just say no? After everything I've done for you?" Alyssa couldn't speak. Her heart was pounding too hard, her hands trembling. She stared at the broken glass on the floor. The pieces spread like a warning. She knew her mother had a temper. She had grown up tiptoeing around it. But this was different. This wasn't just anger. This was something else, something colder. She slowly blinked, feeling her chest tighten. What are you doing?" she whispered. But Diane wasn't listening. She kept shouting, pacing back and forth, her hair sticking to her sweaty forehead. "You're selfish. You're ungrateful. You make money and suddenly you think you're better than us? I didn't raise you to be this heartless." Alyssa swallowed hard. She tried to breathe. She tried to remember how this argument had even started. She had only said one word. No. One small word that she had never dared to use in this house. A word that changed everything. And it was all because of the demand, the number that still didn't feel real. $1.5 million. Even thinking about it made her dizzy. How could anyone ask that from their own child? Their own daughter? But Diane had asked, loudly, desperately, like Alyssa was some kind of endless bank account. And when Alyssa, for the first time in her life, didn't immediately say yes, something in her mother snapped. Alyssa felt her legs weaken as Diane kept shouting. She grabbed the edge of the counter to steady herself. A part of her wanted to scream back. Another part wanted to run out the door and never look back. But instead, she stood there, trapped between fear and shock. This didn't come out of nowhere. She knew that. There had been signs for years. Little moments, sharp words, guilt, pressure. All brushed aside because she wanted so badly to believe her mother loved her the way mothers were supposed to love their daughters. But tonight, as she looked at the broken glass and the anger twisting her mother's face, something inside her cracked too. Her mother stepped closer. "You owe me, Alyssa. You owe me everything you have. And if you think you're walking out of this house without giving me that money..." Alyssa's breath hitched. Not the full story. Not yet. Her mother hadn't explained why she needed such a huge amount. She kept dodging the real reason, hiding it behind shouting and insults. But whatever it was, it had pushed her mother to this point. To violence. To throwing a glass. To calling her own daughter heartless. Alyssa finally found her voice, soft and shaking. "I don't owe you my whole life." Diane's eyes widened with rage. And Alyssa knew in that freezing moment that her life was about to change forever. Alyssa grew up learning that love in her home came with conditions. Her mother, Diane, never said it out loud, but Alyssa felt it every day. A quiet emotional distance, like her mother's heart was always somewhere else. And when Diane married Rick, that distance only grew wider. Rick had a daughter from his previous marriage, Jasmine, and from the moment she moved in, Diane treated her like she was made of gold. Jasmine got the warm smiles, the soft hugs, the gentle words. Alyssa got rules, expectations, and reminders that she needed to be responsible and not cause problems. Even as a child, Alyssa noticed the difference. Birthday gifts that were smaller, school events where her mother didn't show up, little moments where her feelings were ignored. But Jasmine? Jasmine got everything. Alyssa learned to stay quiet, to stay useful, to stay small. And Diane liked it that way. Diane wasn't good with money. Everyone in the house understood that. She jumped from job to job, always blaming someone else for why things didn't work out. Bills were always late. Credit cards were always full. But somehow, she always managed new clothes, salon visits, or expensive gifts for Jasmine. Whenever Alyssa tried to ask where the money was going, Diane would snap. "Don't talk to me like I'm stupid. I know what I'm doing." But she didn't. She never did. As Alyssa grew older, she became the quiet fixer, the stable one, the one who tried her best not to disappoint. She studied harder than anyone expected, stayed out of trouble, and worked constantly. Maybe a small part of her hoped that if she did well enough, her mother would finally look at her the way she looked at Jasmine. That moment never came. But success did. Alyssa found her own path, far away from the chaos at home. She built a small online business while in college, and it grew faster than she ever imagined. By the time she graduated, she had a real income. And for the first time in her life, she felt something new. Freedom. But Diane noticed. And suddenly, her emotionally distant mother became very interested in her life again. It started small. A phone call asking for help paying a bill. Then another. Then a temporary loan for Rick's business. Then covering Jasmine's tuition after she failed a semester. Alyssa kept helping because she thought it was normal. Because she thought good daughters give and give and give. And because every time she tried to say no, Diane cried or yelled or reminded her how hard motherhood had been. By the time Alyssa turned 26, she was paying almost every major expense in the household. Groceries, car repairs, hospital fees, rent when Rick's business fell behind. She worked long hours to support people who barely said thank you. But she wasn't fully alone. Marcus, her boyfriend, saw everything. He saw how tired she was, how drained she looked after phone calls, how she flinched whenever her mother's name appeared on her screen. He was gentle in ways Alyssa wasn't used to. He listened without judging her. He held her when she cried, telling her she didn't need to carry so much weight. He reminded her that love isn't supposed to feel like pressure. But Alyssa couldn't stop. She felt responsible, not just for her mother but for the whole family. It was a habit she didn't know how to break, and Diane knew exactly how to use that. The pressure grew. Every month brought a new crisis Diane needed money for. Alyssa told herself it would calm down soon. It never did. Then came the worst call of all. The day Diane said she needed $1.5 million. Alyssa almost dropped her phone. She thought it was a joke. But Diane was dead serious, her voice shaky and desperate, insisting it was a matter of family survival. Alyssa asked why. What could possibly cost that much? But her mother refused to explain, only saying it was urgent and she expected Alyssa to step up, like always. Something about the number felt different. Too big. Too heavy. Too unreasonable. Marcus touched her shoulder, telling her gently, "You don't owe them your whole life." For the first time in years, Alyssa wondered if he was right. This demand, it wasn't like the others. It wasn't just a bill or a favor. It was a line in the sand. A limit she hadn't realized she had. And deep inside Alyssa knew. If she gave in to this one, her mother would never stop. But if she refused, everything would fall apart. She just didn't know yet how fast, or how violently, that fall would come. Diane didn't ask for the money gently. She cornered Alyssa in the living room the moment she walked into the house, blocking the doorway like she was afraid Alyssa might escape. "We need $1.5 million, Diane said, her voice tight and shaking. "And we need it now." Alyssa blinked, thinking she had misheard. "Mom, what?" Diane stepped closer. "You heard me. Rick's business is about to collapse. Jasmine has debt she can't pay. Everything is falling apart, and we need you to fix it." Alyssa felt her stomach twist. $1.5 million? That's not a small amount. That's Mom, that's everything I've saved. Diane crossed her arms like she was tired of explaining. "And we are your family. You're supposed to help your family. Jasmine's school loans are past due. Rick owes money to his suppliers, and if he loses the business, we lose the house. Do you want that on your conscience?" Alyssa stared at her mother, shocked. This wasn't a request. It was a demand. A command. She took a slow breath, trying to stay calm. "Why didn't anyone tell me things were this bad?" "We didn't want to stress you," Diane snapped. "But now we have no choice. You make good money. You can fix this." Alyssa had helped before many times. She had paid bills, debts, emergencies, and mistakes. But this was a mountain, not a favor. Her voice came out small. "Mom, I can't give you that." Diane froze. "What did you just say?" Alyssa swallowed. "I can't. That's too much. I'm sorry." It was the first time in her life she had ever said no. She expected anger, but not the level that hit her. Diane's face twisted instantly. "You selfish girl," she shouted. "After everything we've done for you? We fed you, we raised you, we gave you a home, and now you refuse to help us." Alyssa stepped back. "Mom, that's not fair." "Fair?" Diane laughed sharply. "Do you think life is fair? Do you know how much we sacrificed for you while you were off chasing your dreams? Rick worked 2 jobs so you could go to school. Jasmine shared her room when you moved back home. And this is how you repay us. Alyssa shook her head. Mom, I paid for my school. I paid the bills. I've helped for years. I'm not refusing everything. I just can't give you $1.5 million. Diane pointed a finger at her, trembling with rage. You owe us, Alyssa. You owe us everything you have. Alyssa felt something cold settle in her chest. Why would you say that? Diane hesitated, just for a second, then looked away. There are things you don't understand, she muttered. Things I've done for you that you have no idea about. Alyssa frowned. What things? Diane didn't answer. Instead, she turned the conversation into another storm. You're ungrateful, she hissed. All you care about is yourself. Do you know Jasmine cried all night because we told her we might lose the house? And Rick is falling apart, thinking he failed as a father. And you? You walk in here acting like a queen. I'm not acting like anything, Alyssa said quietly. I'm trying to protect what I've worked for. Diane raised her voice again. You're abandoning us. You want to watch your family drown. You want Rick to go bankrupt and Jasmine to get kicked out of school. That's not true. Then prove it. Diane slammed her hand on the table. Give us the money. Right now. Alyssa felt tears sting her eyes. I won't, she whispered. The room went silent. Diane stared at her like she was looking at a stranger, someone she hated. You'll regret this, Alyssa, she said slowly. You have no idea what I've done for you. No idea what you owe me. The way she said it made Alyssa's heart drop. There was something behind those words. A secret. A threat. A warning. And for the first time in her life, Alyssa realized. Her mother wasn't asking for help. She was trying to control her. That no changed everything. And it was only the beginning. Diane didn't waste time after Alyssa said no. Within hours, she started telling the whole family a twisted version of the story. She told them Alyssa had abandoned them, that she was refusing to save the family, and that she had become arrogant because of her money. At first, Alyssa didn't know any of this was happening. She only found out when her phone began buzzing nonstop with angry messages. The family group chat, which had always been quiet, suddenly exploded with insults. Her aunt wrote, "After all your mother did for you, how can you be so cold?" A cousin added, "So the rumors are true. You think you're better than us now." Someone else even wrote, "If the house goes, it's on you." Alyssa stared at the messages in disbelief. She tried typing explanations, but every time she sent a calm reply, 10 angry voices shut her down. No one wanted the truth. They believed Diane's version instantly. They always had. Things got worse when Rick stepped in. He called Alyssa late one night, his voice thick with anger. "You're going to regret this," he said sharply. "If you don't help, I'll take legal action. I'll make sure you pay for the damage you're causing." Alyssa felt her chest tighten. Legal action? For what? I've done nothing wrong. You're the reason my business is failing, he shouted. You promised to help this family. If you refused now, that's financial harm. Alyssa had never promised anything like that, but Rick didn't care. He was desperate, and Diane had convinced him she was the villain. When she hung up, her hands shook so badly, she could barely hold her phone. But Jasmine was the one who broke her heart the most. Jasmine, who grew up beside her. Jasmine, who always got more, always took more. But Alyssa still tried to be kind to her. Instead of calling her privately, Jasmine went online and made a public post. She wrote, "Some people pretend to care about family until they have money. Then they show who they really are." She didn't mention Alyssa's name, but she didn't need to. Everyone knew. People in the comments attacked Alyssa, calling her selfish, spoiled, heartless. Some even tagged her. That night, Alyssa sat on her bedroom floor, shaking and trying to breathe. She felt like her chest was closing in. Tears rolled down her face, but she didn't even realize she was crying at first. She had helped them for years, paid their bills, covered their emergencies, and now they hated her for saying no one time. She felt betrayed, cornered, and completely alone. Marcus found her sitting like that. He knelt in front of her, gently cupping her face. "Baby, you can't keep doing this," he whispered. "You're breaking down. They don't care about your well-being. They're using you." Alyssa wiped her eyes. "But they're my family. I don't want them to lose everything. I just..." I want them to understand. I want them to see I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Marcus shook his head softly. They don't want understanding. They want control. They want your money. And they know guilt is the easiest way to make you give it. She wanted to believe him, but a part of her still clung to hope. Hope that her mother might finally explain why she needed such an enormous amount. A grown woman doesn't demand $1.5 million without a reason. Alyssa wanted answers, not a fight. But the answers she found were worse than she imagined. A week later, Alyssa met privately with a financial advisor she trusted. She asked him to look into Diane's recent financial activities, just to understand what crisis could possibly be so big. When he returned, his face was troubled. Alyssa, your mother isn't just in debt. She's deeply, dangerously in debt. There are loans she's taken in the last 10 years that don't add up. Some of them were taken in your name. Alyssa's heart dropped. In my name? How? He hesitated. I think she forged your signature. The room felt like it spun for a moment. Alyssa grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. Her mother forging her name? Taking loans she never knew about? No wonder Diane was desperate for the $1.5 million. If everything fell apart, everything would come out. Diane wasn't trying to save the family. She was trying to save herself. Alyssa felt sick. She needed answers from the source. She drove to her mother's house, her heart pounding the whole way, hoping, just hoping, that there was some explanation. Something that made sense. Something that didn't break her completely. But Diane wasn't in a mood to talk. The moment Alyssa stepped inside, Diane exploded again, shouting about the money, about loyalty, about betrayal. Alyssa tried to speak, to explain what she had learned, but Diane cut her off every time. She slammed doors, threw accusations, told Alyssa she was the reason the family was falling apart. Finally, Alyssa raised her voice, shaking from the hurt. Mom, why are there loans in my name? Why did you forge my signature? For 1 second, Diane froze. Her face turned pale. But instead of admitting anything, she snapped back with even more fury. Don't you dare accuse me. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? By attacking me. Mom, just tell the truth, Alyssa pleaded. I just want the truth. Diane's voice turned cold, colder than Alyssa had ever heard. You are nothing without me, she said. Everything you have exists because of me. You owe me every dollar you make. The words cut deeper than a knife. Alyssa's hands trembled. Her heart felt like it cracked completely. In that moment, the last piece of the family image she had held onto finally broke. This wasn't love. This was control. This was manipulation. This was a pattern she had spent her whole life trapped in. And now, Diane had shown her true face. The second confrontation didn't end with screaming. It ended with silence. The kind of silence that meant something was finished. The kind of silence that changed everything. Alyssa walked out of the house knowing nothing would ever be the same again. Alyssa walked into lawyer Elena's office with a heavy heart. She had barely slept for days. Her mother's anger, the hostile messages, Jasmine's online humiliation, and the threat of legal action had pushed her to a breaking point. She needed clarity. She needed truth. She needed someone who wouldn't twist her words or blame her. Elena was calm, sharp, and kind, the type of person who made you feel safe the moment you sat down. She had already gathered documents from Alyssa's financial advisor, and now they lay in a neat stack on the desk. Alyssa, Elena said gently, before we begin, I want you to prepare yourself. What I'm about to show you might hurt. Alyssa nodded, her throat tight. I just want to know everything. Elena opened the first folder. This is your college fund account. You had a substantial amount saved, money from scholarships, small grants, and a few contributions from extended family over the years. Alyssa frowned. Yes, I remember that account. But when I got to college, Mom told me the fund wasn't enough and I needed to take loans. Elena slid a document across the desk. That's because the account was emptied 5 months before you started college. Alyssa's breath caught in her chest. Emptied? By who? Elena pointed to the signature line. This withdrawal form has your mother's name on it. Alyssa's mouth fell open. Her hands went cold. My college fund, she took it? I'm afraid so, Elena said softly. Every dollar. Before Alyssa could process that, Elena opened the next folder. These, she continued, are loan documents taken out over the last 12 years. Several of them are in your name. Alyssa felt a wave of nausea. In my name? But I never signed anything. Elena tapped her pen on the signature line of each form. Look closely. The signature is supposed to be yours, but it's not. Whoever signed this tried to copy your handwriting, but not well. Alyssa swallowed hard. My mother did this. Elena nodded gently. Yes. And she did it more than once. That's why the debt is so high. That's why she's desperate. If the lenders find out these signatures are forged, she could face serious consequences. Tears blurred Alyssa's vision. She felt her entire childhood collapse inside her. All the times her mother said, "You owe me." All the guilt, all the shame, all the pressure. It all made sense now. It was never about love. It was about using her. Elena placed a comforting hand on hers. You didn't deserve any of this. You didn't cause this. And you're not responsible for fixing it. Alyssa wiped her cheeks. I need to talk to her. I need to hear her say it. Elena sighed but nodded. If you do, go carefully. People who lie for years don't confess easily. Alyssa drove straight to her mother's house. Her hands were shaking, her heart pounding, but this time she wasn't confused. She wasn't scared. She was hurt, and ready to face the truth. Diane opened the door with a cold expression. What do you want now? Alyssa stepped inside without waiting. We need to talk. Diane crossed her arms. Unless you brought the money, I have nothing to say. Alyssa took a deep breath and placed the documents on the table. These are records from the bank. They show you took all the money from my college fund. Diane stiffened. What? No, that's ridiculous. And these, Alyssa continued, her voice trembling, are loan documents with my name and your handwriting. You signed my name, Mom. You put debt in my name without telling me. Diane's eyes darted over the papers. Her jaw tightened. You don't understand. I had no choice. We needed that money. I had to keep this family together. Alyssa felt her chest ache. By stealing from your own daughter? It was my money, Diane snapped. I raised you. I fed you. I kept a roof over your head. I had every right to use that fund. And those loans? Those were for your future. I sacrificed everything for you. Alyssa shook her head, tears falling again. You didn't sacrifice. You lied. You hurt me. And now you expect me to give you $1.5 million to fix your mistakes. Diane suddenly began to cry, loud, dramatic, messy crying. She clutched her chest like she was the victim. You don't love me, she sobbed. You never did. After everything I did for you, you stand here accusing me? Your ungrateful father raised you to hate me. I should have known you'd turn out like him. Alyssa's heart twisted. This isn't about love. This is about what you did. Diane's tears stopped instantly. Her face hardened. You think you're better than all of us now. You think your little business makes you special. Let me tell you something, Alyssa. Without me, you'd be nothing. Alyssa flinched at the cruelty, but she didn't break. Diane leaned closer, her voice filled with venom. You owe me your life. You owe me every dollar you've ever made. And if you walk away now, you're dead to this family. Do you hear me? Dead. For a moment, everything inside Alyssa went completely silent. The pain, the anger, the betrayal. It all settled into one clear truth. Her mother didn't love her. Her mother only loved what she could take from her. Alyssa stepped back toward the door, feeling something inside her finally snap free. You're right, she whispered. If this is what family is to you, then I'm done. Diane shouted after her, but Alyssa didn't turn back. For the first time in her life, she walked away without guilt. And she knew deep in her bones that the relationship she had spent her whole life trying to save was already gone. Alyssa blocks family access. The moment she hit block on every family member, a strange silence filled her apartment. It wasn't peaceful yet, but it wasn't painful either. It felt like a room that had finally stopped echoing. For the first time in weeks, Alyssa could breathe without waiting for the next attack. She deleted herself from the family group chats, removed their access to her email, and even changed her banking passwords. She set firm boundaries in places she never had before. It felt scary. It felt unfamiliar. But it also felt right. After blocking them, she immediately went to her lawyer, Elena, and filed legal protections. She made sure she was no longer connected to any financial responsibility tied to her mother or siblings. She signed documents that officially separated her from their debts, loans, and manipulations. Every page she signed made her hands shake, but Elena kept reminding her, "This is you choosing peace." Alyssa walked out of the law office lighter than she had in years. Marcus noticed the shift the moment she came home. Her shoulders weren't as tense. Her eyes didn't look as tired. He opened his arms and she leaned into him without fear of judgment. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. Alyssa didn't respond at first. She just let herself feel the safety she had always ignored. For weeks, Marcus had watched her break down, panic, question her worth, and blame herself. Now he watched her gather the broken pieces one by one. He didn't push her. He didn't demand she move on. He simply stayed beside her as she learned how to stand again. He cooked for her. He reminded her to sleep. He helped her create a routine that didn't revolve around emotional chaos. Slowly, Alyssa began to rebuild. In the quiet, Alyssa had time to think, really think. She realized something painful but true. She had been raised to believe her value depended on how much she gave. She grew up apologizing before doing anything wrong. She learned to silence her needs so others wouldn't get upset. She learned to solve problems she didn't create just to avoid conflict. All her life, she had been trained to put herself last. Now, she was learning she didn't have to live that way anymore. She started therapy a week later. At first, she didn't know what to say. But the words eventually came out, shaking, messy, full of guilt and confusion. Her therapist helped her understand the patterns she had been trapped in since childhood. They talked about emotional boundaries, self-worth, and the guilt that came from saying no. Alyssa left each session with tears on her face, but strength in her chest. She was learning to love herself without permission. Days passed, then weeks. Without the constant noise of demands and manipulation, Alyssa discovered simple joys. Cooking in silence, reading without interruptions, waking up without a knot in her stomach. She found herself smiling for no particular reason. For the first time in a long time, her home actually felt like home. But of course, Diane couldn't stay silent forever. One morning, Alyssa woke up to a long email. Her mother had created a new account just to reach her. The message was dramatic and emotional. Diane played the victim, blamed Alyssa for destroying the family, begged her to talk, then accused her of being heartless. All in one breath. She even added, "You'll regret cutting us off at the end." Alyssa stared at the email for a long moment. In the past, she would have panicked. She would have cried. She would have tried to fix everything. But now, she felt calm. She didn't reply. She didn't argue. She didn't explain herself. Instead, she took a deep breath and hit block again. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. But out of self-respect. Alyssa continued healing. She focused on work, rebuilt her confidence, and allowed herself to enjoy moments she once felt guilty for. She stopped apologizing for things she didn't do. She learned how to protect her peace, and slowly, the weight she had carried for years finally lifted. She knew her family might never change, but she also knew she had changed, and that was enough. For the first time in her life, Alyssa wasn't surviving for someone else. She was living for herself. Alyssa writes a final note to herself, not to her mother. She sits at her small desk, a soft lamp glowing beside her. For the first time in a long while, the room feels warm, safe, quiet. She opens her journal and lets her pen touch the page. She begins simply. "Alyssa, you survived." The words make her chest tighten. She keeps writing slowly, honestly, gently, like she's speaking to a younger version of herself who never felt protected. She writes about what she went through. The lies. The pressure. The guilt. The emotional storms that drained her for years. She writes about the panic attacks, the nights she couldn't breathe, the moments she thought peace was something other people found, never her. She writes about how she kept trying to earn love from people who only took and never gave back. Then she writes another line. "You deserved better." Even when you didn't know it. Her eyes fill with tears, but they're not the same painful tears she used to cry. These tears feel cleansing, like something inside her is finally letting go. She writes about what she will no longer tolerate. Lies, manipulation, guilt hidden inside love, and the constant pressure to fix things she did not break. She pauses, thinking of her mother. There is no hatred in her heart, just a quiet sadness. A small, bittersweet ache for the relationship she wished she had. the mother she prayed existed, the warmth she kept trying to create out of thin air. Then she writes the truth she had avoided for years. I don't hate you, but I choose myself. When she finishes, Alyssa closes the journal softly, like sealing a promise. She takes a long breath, her shoulders relaxing in a way they never had around her family. She stands, walks to the window, and looks out at the night sky. It feels wide, open, full of possibilities she had never allowed herself to imagine. For the first time, she feels the quiet strength of someone who finally stepped out of the storm. And with a small, steady whisper meant only for herself, she says, I am free. Busty. Thanks for watching all the way through. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Bye.